Happy people shouldn't watch this video. Life can sometimes feel like a long road where we must walk through sunny days as well as unexpected storms. There are moments when darkness seems to swallow all hope, leaving us lost. But then, amidst moments that seem unbearable, a small ray of light appears, guiding us through. Today I want to share with you the story of Calista, a testament to the power of love and faith. From a woman who was abused and abandoned by her husband, she overcame everything to find happiness for herself and her son. Life is not always fair, but as long as we don't give up, a bright path awaits ahead. A life full of suffering. Calista is a middle-aged woman, petite in stature but with a face always showing resignation. She lives in a small town where everyone knows each other through stories shared on the porch. Calista has a young son, a 5-year-old boy with big round eyes and an innocent smile. However, her life is not as peaceful as the town's appearance might suggest. Calista's husband, Liam, is an alcoholic. Every night, as the streetlights begin to glow, he stumbles home in a drunken haze, muttering curses. Not only does he drink, but he also has an affair with another woman in the area. His absences often stretch for weeks, leaving Calista to struggle alone with life and her young son. Worse still, whenever he is drunk, he often takes out his anger on her with merciless beatings. One time, Calista was beaten so badly that her arm was bruised simply because she dared to ask him where he had been. On a stormy evening, Liam returned home with bloodshot eyes. Calista was cooking in the kitchen while their son played nearby. Just because she accidentally dropped a spoon on the floor, Liam shouted, "Useless, you can't even cook properly," and then rushed over to slap her hard, causing her to fall to the ground. Their son cried out and ran to hug his mother, but Liam didn't care at all. Such days were not rare in Calista's life. Despite it all, she tried to endure. She thought she had to keep the family together for the sake of her child, not wanting him to grow up without a father. But then, one day, everything went beyond her limits. After years of suffering, Calista finally reached a point where she could no longer continue. One afternoon, Liam announced that he would leave her to live with the other woman. He didn't even look at her or their son as he picked up an old bag and walked out the door. At that moment, Calista stood still in their small home, hearing his footsteps fade away, her heart shattering. But instead of crying, she felt a strange sense of relief. She looked at her son, who was playing with a broken toy car. His eyes lit up when he saw her looking at him, and Calista told herself, "I must be strong for my child." That night, she packed a few sets of clothes, some saved money, and took her son away from the home filled with painful memories. They began a new journey, not knowing where they would go, but she believed that anywhere would be better than the old place. As they left, Calista carried only a small backpack. Inside were her son's favorite clothes, the blue shirt with superhero prints that he always wanted to wear to bed. She also stuffed in a piece of dry bread, in case they got hungry on the road. They walked under the dim moonlight, Calista holding her son's hand tightly, silently promising that no matter how difficult it got, she would not let him suffer any longer. A hard life with my child. Calista rented a small room on the outskirts of town. The room was cramped and the walls were peeling, but it was all she could afford. To support herself and her son, Calista did various jobs, washing dishes at a restaurant, sewing for neighbors, and selling vegetables at the market. However, the money she earned was never enough. Her son had a congenital heart condition, a disease that required significant treatment costs. Every time he struggled to breathe, Calista would rush him to the hospital, her heart aching as she listened to the doctors discuss bills she couldn't possibly manage. There were nights when Calista sat by her son's bed watching him sleep, tears silently falling. She wondered what she had done wrong for life to be so harsh to them. But then she wiped her tears, stood up, and continued working, knowing that she was her son's only support. One time, when her son had a high fever and was breathing rapidly, Calista had to borrow money from a neighbor to take him to the hospital. In the emergency room, she held his hand and whispered, "I won't let you suffer." The doctor said that if surgery wasn't done soon, her son's life would be in danger. Hearing this, Calista could only lower her head, her heart heavy with the burden of not knowing where to find the money. A way out from faith. In her moment of despair, Calista turned to the church near her home. She wasn't particularly religious, but at that moment she felt the need for something to hold on to. Under the soft glow of the candles, Calista knelt down, clasped her hands, and prayed to God. She didn't ask for money or miracles. She simply asked for a chance, a better job so she could care for her son. She told God about her months of suffering, the beatings from her ex-husband, and her son's clear eyes whenever he asked, "Mom, when will I get better?" Calista pleaded, "Please bless me with the strength to raise my child to be healthy." This simple prayer contained all the love and hope of a mother. As she prayed, Calista recalled a moment when her son had given her the last coin in the house and said, "Mom, can you buy me some candy?" Instead of buying candy, she had used that coin to buy pain relief medicine for him. That moment made her cry right in the church, but it also fueled her belief that she had to try even harder. Not long after that prayer, a miracle occurred. An acquaintance from the church introduced Calista to work at a small garment factory in town. The job wasn't too strenuous, but the income was much more stable than her previous odd jobs. Calista began working with all her diligence and dedication. She not only sewed clothes, but also learned to design, gradually earning the affection of everyone in the factory. The factory owner, Henry, was a widower. His wife had passed away a few years earlier due to illness, leaving him alone with his loneliness. Henry was kind-hearted and always cared for his employees. When he learned about Callista's situation, he often asked about her son's health and even lent her money for medical bills without expecting anything in return. One day, Calista arrived late because she had to take her son for a checkup. She worried about being reprimanded, but Henry just smiled gently. "Children are more important than work. Don't worry, I'll take care of this." His kindness touched Calista, and from then on, a special bond began to blossom between them. As time passed, Henry proposed to Calista. He said he wanted not only to take care of her, but also to be a father to her son. Calista hesitated at first, fearing that her painful past would make her unworthy of happiness. But when she saw her son so attached to Henry, she nodded in agreement. They held a simple wedding in the church, the same place where Calista had prayed. Her son underwent heart surgery thanks to Henry's help, and his health gradually improved. From that point on, their lives were filled with laughter. Henry was not only a good husband, but also a devoted father. Calista no longer had to worry about money or the lonely days. One evening, Calista saw Henry telling stories to her son. The boy giggled and hugged him, saying, "I love you, Dad." Hearing this, Calista stood in the kitchen doorway, smiling with happiness. She silently thanked God for listening to her prayer. Faith and hope. Callista's story is not unique, but it is special in the way she found peace amid adversity. Have you ever felt like you were sinking in a storm with no way out? Perhaps you don't need to find the perfect answer right away. Sometimes all it takes is a moment to pause, listen to your heart, and believe that something greater is accompanying you. Things will gradually become clearer. I share this story not to say that all difficulties will vanish when you have faith. No, life will still have its stormy days. But like Calista, you can find a refuge in your soul, a place where, despite the chaos in the world, you still feel at peace. For Calista, God is not a distant king, but a friend who is always there, listening to every breath she takes. Callista's story is a testament to the power of love and faith. From a woman who was abused and abandoned by her husband, she overcame everything. Life is not always fair, but as long as you don't give up, a bright path awaits ahead. This story reminds us that no matter how hard life may be, believe that things will eventually get better. Like Calista, as long as you have faith and make an effort, happiness will surely smile upon you. If you're feeling tired, try opening your heart just once. You don't need to understand everything, nor do you need to be talented or strong. Just be willing to take a small step, and the light will come to you. And as you read this last line, I hope you feel a little warmth, a little hope, just as Calista found in her journey. Life isn't always easy, but you never have to walk